Reality is not objective. Or rather, it is objective, but we don't perceive it objectively. We perceive reality through filters, through biases, through narratives we've constructed, through frameworks we've been taught to use. A skilled manipulator understands this. They understand that controlling someone's perception of reality is more powerful than controlling events themselves. They understand that if they can shape how you interpret what's happening, they can shape what you believe is happening. This is the illusion architect's one who systematically constructs false realities that appear completely real to the person experiencing them. Understanding how illusion architects work is essential because it reveals how perception can be weaponized. It reveals how realities can be constructed. It reveals that what seems obviously true to you might be a carefully engineered illusion designed to serve someone else's purposes. The power of the illusion architect lies in a fundamental truth about human perception. We do unsee reality directly. We construct reality from fragments of information, filtered through our existing beliefs, interpreted through narratives we've internalized. This is not a flaw in human cognition. It's a feature. It's what allows us to make sense of overwhelming complexity. It's what allows us to navigate the world without becoming paralyzed by uncertainty. But this feature, this constructive nature of perception also makes us vulnerable. Because if someone understands how you construct reality, they can manipulate that construction process. They can inject false information at crucial points. They can emphasize certain fragments while obscuring others. They can reframe situations so that your constructed reality diverges from what's actually happening. The illusion architect's first tool is what we call selective presentation. They don't lie. They simply present certain facts and omit others. They show you the parts of reality that support their narrative while hiding the parts that would contradict it. You see evidence that seems to support their version. You don't see evidence that would contradict it. From your perspective, the evidence seems overwhelming. You don't realize that you're only seeing a carefully curated selection of facts. The illusion architect has constructed a reality where a particular interpretation seems obviously true because you've only been shown the facts that support it. The second tool is narrative framing. Even when presenting truthful information, the way information is framed determines how you interpret it. If I tell you 95% of people survived the treatment, that frames the treatment as safe. If I tell you 5% of people died from the treatment, that frames the treatment as dangerous. The same fact, different frames, different realities constructed by the person hearing the information. The illusion architect frames facts in ways that support their narrative. They choose language carefully. They choose context carefully. They choose which facts to present alongside other facts. Through framing, they guide you toward their preferred interpretation. The third tool is false comparison. The illusion architect presents false comparisons that make something seem better or worse than it actually is. They compare your situation not to objective reality, but to a worse alternative. Yes, you lost money, but at least you didn't lose more. You didn't realize you lost money unnecessarily. You're grateful you didn't lose even more. The comparison has reframed your reality. They might compare your situation to an idealized version that's unattainable. You should want to be with me because you could never do better. Your actual situation being in a relationship with someone who controlling you becomes reframed as fortunate by comparison to the alternative they've presented. The fourth tool is reality denial. When you perceive something that contradicts their narrative, they simply deny it. They deny what you saw. They deny what you heard. They deny what you remember. And they do this with such conviction that you begin to doubt your own perceptions. You think maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I misinterpreted. Your confidence in your own perception erodes. Their construction of reality gradually becomes more credible than your direct experience. This is the power of confident denial. It plants seeds of doubt that grow over time. The fifth tool is responsibility reversal. They reframe who is responsible for what's happening. Bad things are happening. It's your fault you caused it. Your behavior triggered it. Your incompetence led to it. They're not responsible. They're just responding to you. Your perception of reality shifts. You see yourself as the problem. You see them as the victim of your failures. You don't realize that this responsibility reversal is a manipulation. You think you're seeing the truth about yourself. The sixth tool is normalization of the abnormal. They gradually introduce increasingly abnormal behavior as if it's normal. They start with small violations of your boundaries, then slightly larger ones, then larger still. Each violation is only slightly more extreme than what came before. You adapt to each new level. What seemed shocking a few months ago now seems normal. Your perception of what's acceptable has been gradually shifted. You don't realize it because the shifts were incremental. You don't realize that your reality or sense of what's normal has been dramatically altered. The seventh tool is meaning distortion. They take events and reinterpret their meaning. Something you did that was kind, they reinterpret as selfish. Something they did that was harmful, they reinterpret as helpful. They're constantly rewriting the meaning of events. Your constructed reality about what happened becomes increasingly disconnected from the actual meaning of events. But their interpretation seems so confident, so detailed, so logical that you doubt your own understanding. The eighth tool is isolation from alternative perspectives. They limit your access to other perspectives. They discourage you from talking to others. They discourage you from reading alternative information. They present themselves as the reliable source of truth, while presenting all other sources as unreliable. Your reality becomes increasingly constructed from only their perspective. You don't have access to other frameworks that might help you see through the illusion. You're trapped in a reality constructed entirely from their narrative. The ninth tool is emotional manipulation paired with false explanation. They trigger strong emotions in you and then provide an explanation for those emotions that serves their narrative. You feel fear. They tell you it's because of external threats they're protecting you from. You feel shame. They tell you it's because of your inadequacies. You feel anger. They tell you it's because of others who've wronged you. The emotions are real. The explanations are false. But the false explanations become locked into your understanding. Your emotions become evidence supporting their constructed reality. The 10th tool is future narrative construction. They don't just construct a false present. They construct a false future. They tell you what will happen if you leave them. Catastrophe, loneliness, failure. They tell you what will happen if you stay. Happiness, success, security. This future narrative becomes part of your reality. You make decisions in the present based on a future that was constructed to manipulate you. You think you're planning rationally. Actually, you're responding to a false vision of the future that was created to serve their interests. Understanding how illusion architects construct false realities is the beginning of liberation from those realities. Because once you understand the techniques, you can begin to notice them being used. Once you notice the selective presentation, you can start asking what information is being hidden. Once you notice the narrative framing, you can start interpreting facts in your own way. Once you notice the false comparisons. You can evaluate your situation against objective reality rather than manipulated comparisons. The illusion architect's power comes from your not realizing you're living in an illusion. Once you see the illusion, it begins to lose its power. You can begin to perceive reality more directly. You can begin to construct your own interpretation of what is happening rather than accepting the construction that has been provided to you. The illusion architect doesn't construct false realities haphazardly. There's a structure to how they work. There's a logic to the illusions they build. Understanding this structure is crucial because it reveals that illusions are not magic. They're systematic. They're constructed according to principles, and principles can be recognized. Once you understand the architecture of false realities, you can begin to see through them. The construction of false realities follows predictable patterns. Understanding these patterns is the beginning of liberation from them. This is not about blaming yourself for being deceived. This is about understanding the sophisticated methods used to construct deceptions that feel like truth. The first structural element is reality anchoring. The illusion architect begins by establishing some facts that are true. They tell you things that are accurate. They do things that align with their words. They build credibility through truthfulness on low-stakes matters. This is the foundation. They need you to believe they're generally honest. So they are generally honest about small things. The large deception is built on a foundation of small truths. You trust them because they've been truthful. You don't realize they've deliberately chosen what to be truthful about and what to deceive about. This selective honesty is the cornerstone of illusion architecture. They're betting that your pattern recognition brain will extrapolate. They've been truthful about small things, so they must be truthful about large things too. The second structural element is emotional bonding. Before major deceptions, they deepen emotional bonds. They make you feel understood in ways nobody else has. They make you feel special. They create a sense of unique connection that feels irreplaceable. The emotional bonding serves a purpose. It makes you reluctant to question them. It makes you want to believe them. It makes you willing to give them the benefit of the doubt when contradictions emerge. The stronger the emotional bond, the more cognitive dissonance you must experience before accepting deception. Love becomes a weapon against your own critical thinking. Your brain's reward centers are flooded with neurochemicals that associate them with safety and pleasure. Questioning them begins to feel like questioning your own survival. The third structural element is incremental violation. They don't start with major boundary violations or major deceptions. They start small. They start with minor boundary crossing. They start with small contradictions between their words and actions. Each violation is only slightly more extreme than what came before. You adapt to each new level. By the time violations become severe, you've been gradually shifted into a new normal. You don't rebel because you don't perceive sudden change. You perceive only incremental changes that each seem tolerable on their own. This is the boiling frog phenomenon. If you dropped a frog in boiling water, it would jump out. But if you place it in cold water and gradually heat it, it adapts and dies. The incremental violation works the same way. The fourth structural element is external validation. They present their constructed version to others. They tell friends, family, colleagues, therapists, their engineered narrative of events, these people not knowing any better except the constructed version. They then validate it. When you encounter these people, they confirm the illusion architect's narrative. Now, it's not just one person telling you false things. It seems like multiple independent sources confirming the same story. You don't realize these people are just repeating what they were told by the person with motive to deceive. You interpret their agreement as independent verification of truth. Social proof is one of the most powerful psychological mechanisms. When multiple people affirm the same narrative, resistance becomes increasingly difficult. The fifth structural element is controlled information. They control what information reaches you. They might intercept communications. They might prevent you from reading certain materials. They might discourage certain relationships. They present themselves as a reliable source of information about the world. Everything you know comes through their filter. Your constructed reality is built entirely from information they've selected and framed. You don't have access to alternative information that might contradict their construction. In extreme cases, they may actively prevent you from accessing certain information while simultaneously providing misinformation to fill the void. The sixth structural element is blame assignment. When things go wrong, they assign blame in ways that serve their narrative. Bad outcomes are your fault. Good outcomes are because of them. If something they predicted didn't happen, they claim they prevented it through their intervention. If something they promised didn't materialize, it's because you didn't follow instructions correctly. This blame narrative builds a story where they're competent and you're incompetent, where they're protective and you're foolish. This creates a power dynamic, where they're positioned as superior and you're positioned as subordinate. The seventh structural element is inconsistency masking. Their words and actions frequently contradict each other, but they mask the contradictions. They reframe them as misunderstandings on your part. They gaslight you about what they said or did. The contradictions are hidden through denial and you can point to clear inconsistencies because the V made them seem like they re in your perception, not in their behavior. You begin to doubt your memory and your interpretation of events. The eighth structural element is future control. They don't just control present reality. They control future possibilities. They tell you what will happen if you leave. They tell you what opportunities will be available if you stay. This future narrative influences your present decisions. You think you're choosing freely. Actually, you're choosing based on false visions of futures constructed to control you. They paint worst-case scenarios for alternatives and best-case scenarios for compliance. The ninth structural element is intermittent reinforcement. They don't consistently reward or punish. They're unpredictable. Sometimes kind, sometimes cruel. Sometimes they fulfill promises, sometimes they don't. This intermittent reinforcement is extremely powerful. It makes you work harder to please them. It makes you more loyal. It's the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. The unpredictability creates psychological hooks stronger than consistent reinforcement would be. Your brain becomes addicted to the occasional rewards. The 10th structural element is identity merger. Over time, they blur the boundary between your identity and theirs. Your thoughts become theirs. Your goals become theirs. Your identity becomes defined in relation to them. You stop knowing who you are independent of them. Questioning them feels like questioning yourself. Leaving feels like losing yourself. This identity merger is the ultimate control mechanism. They've made themselves not just the person in your life, but a foundational part of how you understand yourself. The architecture of false realities is sophisticated and designed to resist questioning. It feels true because it's built on foundations of truth, emotional bonding, and isolation from alternative perspectives. The illusion architect has constructed a world where their version seems obviously true, where your doubts seem like psychological problems, where your questions seem like confusion. But understanding the architecture reveals apparent truth is actually constructed. It's built through deliberate techniques. Once you understand the architecture, you can begin to see through it. You can recognize the techniques being used. You can reclaim your own reality. The consequences of living in an illusion architect has constructed reality are profound and pervasive throughout your entire psychology and worldview. Your sense of self becomes distorted and fragmented. Your ability to make decisions becomes compromised and dependent. Your relationships with others become poisoned by the false narratives you've internalized. Understanding these consequences is essential because it reveals why escaping from these realities is so difficult and why recovery takes so long. The illusion architect's construction doesn't just affect the present moment. It shapes your entire worldview. It determines what you believe is possible. It determines what you believe you deserve. It determines how you treat yourself and how you allow others to treat you. The damage extends beyond the relationship itself. The first consequence is the fragmentation of your sense of self. You have become two people in your mind. There's the person you thought you were before the illusion was constructed, and there's the person the illusion architect has told you that you are. These two versions of yourself are in constant conflict. You don't know which one is real. You swing between defending the version you thought you were and accepting the version they've constructed. This internal conflict is exhausting. It makes you unable to act decisively because you're not sure which self is acting. The fragmentation persists even after you leave because the false self they constructed is now part of your own psychology. You internalized the construction so thoroughly that it lives on without their presence. The second consequence is the distortion of your memories. Not just false memories created through suggestion, but the reinterpretation of true memories through a false lens. Events that actually happened are now interpreted through the lens of the illusion. Something you did that was kind is now remembered as selfish. Something they did that was harmful is now remembered as helpful. Your entire history has been rewritten. When you try to understand yourself by looking at your past, you see a false history. You go in to learn the right lessons from your past because the lessons you've drawn are based on false interpretations of what happened. Your sense of continuity of who you've always been has been corrupted. The third consequence is the destruction of your ability to trust your own judgment. You've been told repeatedly that your perceptions are wrong. Your memory is faulty. Your interpretations are incorrect. You've been so thoroughly convinced that you can't trust yourself that you've lost the ability to trust your own judgment about anything. This makes you dependent. You become desperate for someone else to tell you what to think. You become easy to manipulate by anyone who presents themselves as an authority. The illusion architect has created a permanent vulnerability in you. Long after they're gone, you'll struggle to make decisions without seeking external validation. The fourth consequence is the corruption of your capacity for genuine intimacy. You've learned that intimacy involves control and deception. You've learned that love involves someone rewriting your reality to serve their purposes. You can't experience genuine intimacy because you don't know what it looks like. You expect people to manipulate you. You expect people to deceive you. You either withdraw from relationships entirely or you recreate the dynamics of the illusion in new relationships. The illusion architect has damaged your capacity to connect authentically with others. The template they've installed in your mind becomes the default pattern you expect from relationships. The fifth consequence is the adoption of their values and beliefs as your own. The illusion architect's worldview has become your worldview. Their values have become your values. Their beliefs have become your beliefs. You think you're thinking your own thoughts. but you're actually thinking their thoughts. You've internalized their narrative so completely that you can no longer distinguish between what you authentically believe and what they've taught you to believe. This means that even if you escape the relationship, you carry their influence with you. Their voice continues to speak from inside your own mind. The sixth consequence is the development of self. You internalize the criticisms they've directed at you. You adopt the shame they've installed. You believe you're defective in the ways they've told you that you are. You hate yourself for the failings they've attributed to you. This self-hatred is perhaps the most insidious consequence because it persists long after you leave. The illusion architect has programmed you to be your own worst enemy. They've installed an internal voice that criticizes you the way they criticized you. You don't need them to abuse you anymore. You do it to yourself. The abuse becomes the seventh consequence is the erosion of your capacity to envision different futures. The illusion architect has told you what your future will be. They've told you that you're incapable of creating good things for yourself. They've told you that you need them to survive. These future narratives have become locked into your sense of what's possible. Even if you escape, you can't imagine yourself creating a different future. You can't imagine yourself being happy. You can't imagine yourself being successful. You can't imagine yourself being enough. The illusion has constrained not just your present, but your future possibilities. The eighth consequence is the damage to your ability to set boundaries. You've been trained that your boundaries don't matter. Your needs don't matter. Your comfort doesn't matter. Only the illusion architect's needs, preferences, and comfort matter. You've internalized the message that asserting your own needs is selfish. You've learned to apologize for existing even with new people in your life. You can't set boundaries. You allow people to violate your space and your autonomy because you've been taught that your boundaries are obstacles to other people's happiness. You've become a person with no internal boundaries. The ninth consequence is the development of hypervigilance and anxiety. You've been living in a world where reality is constantly shifting, where what you thought was true is suddenly declared false, where what seemed safe suddenly becomes threatening. You've developed the ability to sense danger in your environment. But this ability doesn't turn off when you leave. You become hypervigilant in all situations. You're constantly scanning for threats. You're constantly trying to figure out the real meaning behind people's words and actions. This hypervigilance is exhausting and leaves you in a state of chronic anxiety that persists long after the relationship ends. The 10th consequence is the loss of your sense of agency. You believe that your choices don't matter. You believe that others control your life. You believe that resistance is futile. You've been trained to be passive, to accept what happens to you, to not fight back. Even when you have the opportunity to make different choices, you don't make them because you don't believe your choices will make a difference. The illusion architect has created learned helplessness. They've convinced you that you're powerless, and that belief persists long after you escape their direct control. You've become someone who waits to be rescued rather than someone who rescues themselves. Understanding these consequences reveals why recovery from illusion architects' manipulation is so difficult and takes so long. They haven't just deceived you, they've restructured your entire psychology. They've changed how you think about yourself, about others, about the world. Recovery requires not just escaping the person but undoing the psychological damage they've inflicted. It requires rebuilding your sense of self. It requires recovering your ability to trust your own judgment. It requires grieving the person you thought you were and the life you thought you had. Recovery is not quick, but recovery is possible. Understanding what was done to you is the first step toward undoing it. Your mind is more resilient than you know. Breaking free from the illusions constructed by an illusion architect requires understanding not just what was done to you, but how to systematically undo it. This is not a matter of simply leaving the relationship or cutting contact. The illusion has been internalized. It has become part of your psychology. It has become part of how you understand yourself and the world. Breaking free requires active, deliberate work to reconstruct your sense of reality and your sense of self. Understanding the process of breaking free is essential because it reveals that escape is possible and that healing is possible, even after extensive psychological manipulation. The path out requires intention, effort, and patience with yourself. But the path exists, and thousands have walked it successfully. The first step in breaking free is recognizing that you're living in an illusion. This is deceptively simple, but extraordinarily difficult, because the illusion has been constructed to seem like reality. Your doubt about your own perceptions has been deliberately cultivated. You've been trained not to trust yourself, so recognizing that what you're experiencing is an illusion requires going against everything you've been taught. It requires trusting yourself despite being programmed not to. It requires being willing to seem crazy to others. It requires tremendous courage, but this recognition is the necessary first step. Without it, you'll continue to live in the illusion thinking it's reality. The second step is gathering evidence of the illusion. Write down contradictions between what the illusion architect says and does. Write down times when their predictions didn't come true. Write down times when you remember things differently than they claim you remember them. Write down times when other people have told you things that contradict the illusion architect's narrative. This documentation becomes your anchored reality. When doubt creeps in, and it will, you can look at your evidence and remember that the illusion is constructed, that what seemed obviously true is actually an engineered construct. This written evidence is crucial because memory itself has been compromised. The third step is creating distance from the illusion architect. You cannot reconstruct your reality while they're actively reconstructing it. You cannot rebuild trust in your own perceptions while they're actively undermining it. You cannot escape the illusion while you're still in contact with the person constructing it. Creating distance means reducing contact. It means not engaging with their reality construction attempts. It means protecting yourself from new input designed to reinforce the illusion. This may mean no contact. It may mean limited contact. It may mean refusing to engage with certain topics. But creating some distance is essential. The fourth step is reconnecting with your authentic self. The illusion architect has taught you to ignore your authentic thoughts, feelings, and desires. Reconnecting with your authentic self means noticing what you actually want, not what you've been told you should want. It means feeling your authentic emotions, not the emotions you've been taught you should feel. It means thinking your own thoughts, not thoughts that were installed in you. This reconnection is uncomfortable because authenticity has been punished and compliance has been rewarded. But slowly, you begin authentically reclaiming yourself. You start small. You notice preferences. You honor small emotions. You think small, independent thoughts. The fifth step is developing new external references for reality. Seek out people who knew you before the illusion was constructed. Seek out perspectives that contradict the illusion architect's narrative. Read material that challenges the false beliefs you've internalized. Seek out people who have recovered from similar manipulation. Gradually, you rebuild your sense of what is real by accessing reality from sources outside the illusion architect's control. You begin to see that other realities are possible. Other interpretations exist. Your version of events is not crazy. You're not the only person who's experienced this. The sixth step is grieving what you've lost. You've lost time. You've lost opportunities. You've lost the person you could have become. You've lost relationships with people the illusion architect isolated you from. You've lost your sense of self. This loss is real and it's profound. Grieving this loss is necessary. You must allow yourself to feel the sadness, the anger, the betrayal, the injustice. This grief is not weakness. It's the process of acknowledging what was taken from you and the damage that was done. You cannot heal from grief by avoiding it. You must move through it. The seventh step is rebuilding your sense of self. Who are you apart from the illusion? What do you actually want? What do you actually believe? What are your authentic values? What are your genuine talents and capacities? These questions take time to answer. The answers may surprise you. You may discover that you're not the person the illusion architect told you that you were. You may discover that you have capacities and strengths you didn't know you had. Slowly, you reconstruct yourself based on your authentic nature rather than on their construction. You become reacquainted with who you actually are. The eighth step is processing the trauma. The illusion architect's manipulation has created trauma. Your brain has experienced repeated violations of your reality perception. You've experienced systematic betrayal. You've experienced profound violation. This trauma needs to be processed actively, not just left to fade with time. You may benefit from therapy, particularly therapy that addresses trauma and manipulation. You may benefit from trauma processing techniques like EMDR or somatic experiencing. You may benefit from support groups with others who have experienced similar manipulation. The trauma doesn't go away on its own. It needs to be worked through. The ninth step is rebuilding your ability to trust. You've been trained not to trust yourself. You need to rebuild that trust. You do this through small acts of self. You make small decisions and follow through. You notice when your instincts are correct. You rebuild confidence in your judgment gradually. You also need to rebuild trust in others. This is harder because others have been used against you. But gradually, through experience with trustworthy people, you rebuild your capacity to trust. You learn to recognize trustworthy people. You learn to recognize red flags. You become more discerning. The 10th step is accepting that full recovery takes time. There will be moments when doubt creeps back in. There will be moments when you question yourself. There will be moments when you want to reach out to the illusion architect. There will be moments when the isolation and loss feel unbearable. This is normal. Recovery is not linear. Recovery requires patience with yourself. It requires compassion for yourself. It requires accepting that this is a process that cannot be rushed. You're undoing years of conditioning. You're rebuilding your entire psychological foundation. This takes time, but healing is possible. Breaking free from the illusion architect as constructed reality is one of the most important things you can do for yourself. It requires recognizing that you've been deceived. It requires gathering evidence. It requires creating distance. It requires reconnecting with your authentic self. It requires rebuilding your sense of reality and your sense of self. It requires grieving. It requires processing trauma. It requires rebuilding trust. It requires time, but freedom is possible. Your authentic self is still there beneath the illusion, and slowly through this process, you can reclaim it. You can rebuild your reality. You can become yourself again. You stand at a crossroads. On one side is the reality the illusion architect has constructed for you. A reality where you're inadequate and insufficient, where you need them for survival, where you cannot survive without their guidance and control, where your perceptions are unreliable and untrustworthy, where your thoughts are foolish and misguided, where your desires are selfish and wrong. This is the reality you've been trained to believe. This is the illusion that has shaped how you see yourself and your world. On the other side is authentic reality, your actual perceptions, your actual thoughts, your actual desires, your actual worth, your actual capacity to survive and thrive, your ability to make good decisions based on your own values. This authentic reality has been hidden beneath the illusion, but it's still there, waiting to be reclaimed. And it's possible to reclaim it. The choice between these realities is yours. The illusion architect has tried to convince you that you don't have a choice. They've tried to convince you that leaving is impossible. They've tried to convince you that you'll fail without them. They've tried to convince you that the world is as dangerous as they claim. They've created a narrative where you're trapped, but all of these claims are part of the illusion. The claims are designed to keep you imprisoned in the false reality they've constructed. But the claims are not true. You have more capacity than they've told you. The world is not as dangerous as they've claimed. Leaving is possible. Recovery is possible. Freedom is possible. Reclaiming your authentic reality means trusting yourself again. It means believing that your perceptions can be trusted. It means believing that your memories are generally accurate and reliable. It means believing that your instincts are worth listening to and following. It means believing that you're capable of making good decisions based on your own values. It means believing that you deserve respect from others and from yourself. It means believing that you deserve to be treated well and with dignity. This trust in yourself is the foundation of authentic reality. Without it, you'll remain imprisoned by the illusion. With it, you're free to become who you actually are. Reclaiming your authentic reality means reclaiming your right to your own thoughts. The illusion architect has occupied mental space in your head. They've installed their voice as your internal critic. They've installed their beliefs as your own beliefs. They've occupied your mental reality with their presence. Reclaiming your authentic reality means evicting them from your mind. It means developing your own voice, your authentic voice. It means thinking your own thoughts without their commentary. It means forming your own beliefs based on your own experience and values. This is your mind. You have the right to occupy it authentically. You have the right to think your own thoughts without an installed voice criticizing and controlling them. Reclaiming your authentic reality means reclaiming your right to your own emotions. The illusion architect has told you what you should feel. They've invalidated your authentic emotions. They've taught you to feel shamed for emotions that are legitimate and healthy. They've taught you to suppress anger at mistreatment. They've taught you to apologize for sadness. Reclaiming your authentic reality means honoring your emotions. It means allowing yourself to feel sadness when sad things happen. It means allowing yourself to feel anger when you're mistreated. It means allowing yourself to feel joy without guilt or fear. Your emotions are your authentic responses to reality. They deserve to be honored and listened to. Reclaiming your authentic reality means reclaiming your right to your own body. The illusion architect may have violated your bodily boundaries. They may have convinced you that your body belongs to them. They may have convinced you that your discomfort doesn't matter. They may have made you feel shame about your body. Reclaiming your authentic reality means reclaiming ownership of your body. It means the right to say no. It means the right to decide who touches you and how. It means the right to move through the world safely. It means the right to feel comfortable in your own skin. Your body is yours. You deserve to be safe in it. You deserve to feel at home in your own physical existence. Reclaiming your authentic reality means reclaiming your right to your own future. The illusion architect has told you what your future will be. They've painted pictures of futures that are dependent on them. They've told you that you'll fail without them. They've told you that you'll be alone without them. Reclaiming your authentic reality means imagining your own future. It means asking yourself what you actually want. It means working toward futures you create, not futures that were created for you. Your future is unwritten. You have the power to shape it. You have the capacity to create the life you actually want. The future is yours to build. Reclaiming your authentic reality means forgiving yourself. You may feel shame about how long you believed the illusion. You may feel shame about things you did while under the illusion's influence. You may feel anger at yourself for not escaping sooner. You may judge yourself for being vulnerable to manipulation. Forgive yourself. You were doing the best you could with the mental resources available to you. You were responding normally to systematic psychological manipulation. You are not stupid. You are not weak. You are not broken. You were manipulated. And manipulation works. It's designed to work. It works on intelligent, capable people. Now that you understand it, you can forgive yourself for having fallen under its spell. Reclaiming your authentic reality means building a life based on your authentic values. The illusion architect taught you values that served their purposes, not your will. Reclaiming your authentic reality means discovering what you actually value. It means building a life around those authentic values. It means pursuing goals that matter to you, not goals that were imposed on you. It means creating relationships based on authentic connection and mutual respect, not based on control and dependency. Your life should reflect who you authentically are, not who someone else told you to be. Your life should be a reflection of your values, not their values. Reclaiming your authentic reality is an act of radical self-love and It's saying to yourself, I matter. My perceptions matter. My thoughts matter. My feelings matter. My body matters. My future matters. My autonomy matters. I deserve to live authentically. I deserve to be treated with respect. I deserve happiness. I deserve freedom. I deserve to become who I actually am. This is not arrogance. This is not selfishness. This is sanity. This is the foundation of a healthy life. And you deserve a healthy life. You deserve to be free. The illusion architect tried to convince you that seeing reality clearly is impossible. They tried to convince you that you can never trust your own mind. They tried to convince you that you need them to navigate the world. But these claims are part of the illusion. Reality is perceivable when you're not being systematically lied to. You can trust your mind when you stop accepting false input as truth. You can navigate the world. You've been doing it all along. You are stronger than you've been told. You are smarter than you've been told. You are more capable than you've been told. You have recovered more of yourself than you realize, and you can recover the rest. You can reclaim your authentic reality. You can become free. You can become yourself again. The illusion is not reality. Your authentic self is what's real.